I think we're going with a silent movie show. We need like placards up there. Hey, today is Monday, June 14th. You are tuned into Talent Talk, where you get the news, information, and on Mondays, we bring you a special guest to talk something about real estate, and we have a very special guest today that when we get to it, Davina, you're going to do the introduction, right? And I am Jurgen.
Yeah. Hi, Jurgen.
I had to squeeze that in at the last moment.
I'm Davina.
And it's your boy, Steve. Happy Monday, everyone.
Yes, happy Monday. It is June 14th. We are halfway through the month. And you know, for me, I look out the window and I'm still waiting on summer. To get here, but it's all good.
It feels like spring just kind of flew by. But you know what? Can you believe we're already halfway through the year? Already. Time is
not quite. Blink and you miss it though.
It's flying.
I know. Yes. I know. It's one of those, all the things that we want to get done. And, New Year's rolled around and said, oh, we got time. And then here we go. So, Well, today we are going to be talking about 1031 exchange. And we had a conversation about 1031 exchange.
1031 what?
Yeah, right. What is that? So that is our topic of the day, our 1031 exchange. I think it's really relevant with our market being where it is right now that we're seeing some of those. And we're going to talk to our guest today about it. But I believe we have a trivia question that is related to.
We do 30 something. That sounds strange.
So we do have a trivia question which always leads in to our guest. So trivia question for the day. When did the 1031 exchange first begin? When did the 1031? How long has 1031s been around? 1945, 1932, 1921, or 1928?
Well, either way, didn't just start yesterday, right? From the choices.
Right? They've been around for a little while.
That's right. And we're going to find out. So if you're like, what are they talking about? 1031. When did it start? I don't even know what it is. We are going to bring our guest on here to talk a little bit more about what they are.
David, I was going to say, as a conversation, it actually really is a relevant conversation, especially among investors. And there's been a lot of talk about 1031s, just potential changes to the program and what it might mean going forward. So really, really relevant guest today.
Absolutely. And it has a lot to do with equity. So it has everything to do with equity, actually. So, and there's a lot of that floating around these days. So we are going to bring our guest on. And I'm really excited to bring him on. And we actually are familiar. He's been at our office before. It's been a little while. And he is a wealth of knowledge and he's fun. And again, he is the vice president and account executive of IPX 1031. He actually is homegrown here in the state of Washington. He was born and raised. So he's a Washingtonian at heart, and we just love our community. So we are welcoming Kyle Williams.
Awesome. Thank you.
Kyle.
Welcome, Kyle.
Quite a nice introduction.
Oh, well, we are just so pleased to have you on today and totally appreciate the time that you're spending with us and excited to talk about this topic so we can learn a little bit more and everyone out there that's watching can actually learn a bit more about the 1031. So talk to us first. The first question, we're talking 1031, these four numbers. What is a 1031 exchange?
So a 1031 exchange allows an investor to sell an investment property and use all the equity, not just the after-tax equity, to reinvest into something bigger and better. Because they're using all the equity and not paying taxes, they're actually deferring taxes, their dollar goes a lot further for them. So if someone sells a rental for, say, $500,000, instead of paying 15, 20, 25% in taxes and only being able to reinvest, say, 400,000, they get to reinvest that full 500,000 and get more money working for them.
Interesting. So you're able to take the monies from one property, and without having to take a portion and give that portion over to the government, you're able to fully reinvest that into, I think it's a like-kind exchange, right?
Absolutely. Yep. There's nothing else. I tell, and I've said this in the classes before, that there's no greater wealth building tool that the Internal Revenue Code gives us than 1031. A lot of people have their preferences on what they invest in. Some people like stocks, cryptocurrency, whatever the case is. But for most middle-class people, and especially buy and hold investors, there's no greater wealth building tool than Section Code 1031, because there's nothing else that allows investors, as you guys know, to buy and sell assets over the course of their entire life and defer taxes all the way.
Gotcha. And I think you just gave us the answers to how the 1031 was named, right? It's a section code.
Correct. Yep. Absolutely. It's a section code in the Internal Revenue Code.
Nice, Steve.
So, Kyle, what qualifies to be a like-kind exchange?
Yeah. So, good question, Steve. This is one of the most common questions I get. I go over this with clients every day. The better question is well, what doesn't qualify as like kind? Because basically everything almost qualifies for like kind, outside of personal use properties like primary residences and second homes that don't qualify. Flips don't qualify, and new developments to be sold don't qualify, like home builder properties, new development, stuff like that. But everything else probably qualifies for 1031 treatment. So this would be like rentals qualify, raw land, commercial, mineral rights anywhere, like timber rights and water rights in our state, 30-year leases, perpetual easements, like all sorts of crazy things that you wouldn't think would be like kind to, like, say, rentals, for example, are. So a lot of investors, for example, like one of the common exchanges we see is investors who exchange out of land into rentals. Because a lot of people own land, and they've owned land for a long time, especially like in Thurston County, for example, out towards Yelm. Say they've owned like 50 acres forever, and they've made money on it, but it really is just sitting there. It's basically stagnant equity. So as soon as they find out they can exchange into something like a rental where they can take depreciation, like a tax benefit, and start collecting income, they exchange out of that land into a rental. So they don't know it's like kind, and a lot of people don't know what like kind is, but really it's anything held for business or investment use.
Gotcha. Well, you talk about that, the landowners and, property owners. We have a lot of owners of rentals. The market was not good, back in, when we had the crash and they couldn't sell. And so they've held their properties. And now even shorter holds have a ton of equity with the market prices going up. And so now that you've seen the increase in equity positions for owners, have you seen exchanges happening? Like, what's going on with exchanges in regards to the numbers of those happening?
Yeah, exchanges are definitely as popular as they've ever been right now, because you're right. There's a lot of people around the country who have equity positions, but I would say right now the big reason driving people is they want to diversify outside Washington State and the West Coast, be it prices have run up too much too quickly, or political risk, or whatever the case is. A lot of investors, and it seems like everyone, is exchanging out of Washington. And it's not to say that people aren't buying real estate here, because they clearly are, but investors, a lot of investors tend to be moving out, or at least moving out of, like, say, King County into, like, Thurston County, Eastern Washington, Snohomish, like outside the peripheral of Seattle. So as you guys know, the prices around like Olympia, DuPont, Pierce County they're insane right now, because a lot of people are moving out of those areas, and even investors too.
Yeah. And you mentioned, and you mentioned out of state. So it doesn't matter where you are, where your property is, you guys can help with transfers anywhere in the nation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 1031 is federal, so you can exchange between all 50 states, and that's what we see a lot of people doing right now is exchanging out of state and diversifying their holdings.
You know, Kyle, kind of building on that with the 1031, right now there, you know, whenever we have a change in administration, there are some changes that can kind of go along with policy and other rules. Also, with as much as the pandemic's affected many things, there's been a lot of stimulus, a lot of spending that's been going on to help. They're looking at different programs and thinking about ways of possibly changing them. 1031 exchanges are one program that has been a part of the conversation. I want to ask you just a question that goes backwards without giving away an answer and then goes forward a little bit. Originally, we know 1031s have been around for quite some time. Without saying the year, our trivia question is when the 1031s were actually created. Can you help us understand why 1031 exchanges were created in the first place and what might be occurring with the 1031s, how that might change into the future here?
Yeah, so 1031s were originally created, and I've done a little, as an amateur historian, I've done a little research on this, but essentially it was like farmers who wanted to rotate crops and, didn't want a taxable event. So, I'd say like, Davina, I've got this, crop of hay and, I want to exchange for your crop of, wheat or whatever. And so we would do an exchange like that, to where I would take that land and she would take mine, whatever the case is. So it eventually changed in 79 is when the case wrapped up. But there was a very well-known case, the Starker case, where a Northwest guy actually in Oregon wanted to exchange timber for essentially investment properties. And he took like 5 years to do an exchange. So it wasn't a deed swap like had been. And eventually it wrapped up in federal court in, I think, 79. But that case gave way to most three-party exchanges that we see today, where like you're the exchanger, you're selling to one party and buying from another party. There's three parties involved. So yeah, it's this is the 100-year anniversary, and really we're going on over 40 years of really the modern 1031 too. But as to the second part of your question, what changes are being talked about that could affect 1031s? I think really a lot is on the table right now. There's nothing in any current bills, but we went through this in 2017 too, because with a new administration, even though President Trump at the time was very familiar and had done 1031s, we still didn't know. There was still a lot of talk then of 1031s going away, and right now with like President Biden, it's kind of the same thing. We don't know what's going to happen. Just because President Trump had done a lot of 1031s doesn't mean he was going to didn't mean that he was going to keep them. And just like President Biden, I mean, I'm sure he's done 1031s. I don't know. But even if he hasn't, it doesn't mean that he's just going to get rid of them either. So it's not really a political thing. We've seen people from both sides of the aisle over the years that have talked about this being a loophole, which really it isn't. But at the end of the day, we urge people, email your congressperson. It's really easy. You can just go to their website and click email and send a quick email and say, 1031s have helped me build wealth, and I'm a taxpayer. Please consider keeping them. So we definitely want people to reach out to their congressperson and exercise that right to be heard.
Well,
okay. Sounds like a plan. Make sure that they don't go away, because we definitely want to keep the 1031 around.
Yep.
We've seen a lot more people, and it seems like we're seeing a bit of an increase within the 1031 exchanges. What advice would you give someone who owns investment property, or maybe first-time investors who might be considering using the like-kind exchange?
So, yeah, people need to involve the professionals they work with, which would be like you guys, their broker, maybe their financial advisor, especially their CPA, to plan this out. Because, I think it generally starts with you guys. They need to know what the market is. If someone is in a place where they don't have a ton of gain, and you guys are honest with them and help them say, hey, you're probably not going to make a lot of money on this one. Here's where the market is. Start right there. They need to figure out what the market is, what their price is going to be, what their tax liability is going to be, and work with their CPA then at that point to really plan everything out. So, we tell everyone, get the professionals in your life involved, because sometimes people will call and say, hey, I'm thinking about selling a rental in the next year. What should I do? It's like, well, talk to the broker you work with and figure out if it makes sense from a market standpoint. Talk to your CPA, figure out the tax liability, but really involve the professionals that you work with.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice. And we're the professionals, but we have to get you guys involved too, because you're the subject matter professionals, right? So just understanding. I just referred someone over. They had rental properties, and they were asking me questions, and I'm like, well, let me give you some resources to tap into. I don't know, talk to your CPA, and also the exchange companies. So I do have actually a question for you, because you had mentioned a little bit early on, it's like there's a ton of things that qualify. There's a few things that don't qualify. And, when we talk about the flips, that's one of the things that I know that a lot of investors, or at least, even getting in, the talk of the quick turnarounds, and those don't qualify. And there are a few other things. How long do you have to hold a 1031 for it to qualify to exchange?
Yeah, very good question, Davina. So the IRS has never stated a time frame on how long you have to hold for, but they've said flips don't qualify. So what does that even mean? At the end of the day, it comes down to tax advisor guidance. And so a lot of CPAs I talk to and work with that really know real estate well will say, well, just because they don't define it in section code 1031, when the IRS says long-term, elsewhere in the Internal Revenue Code, they mean 1 year or greater. So a lot of CPAs will say, they essentially mean hold for 1 year or more and get some business or investment use from it, like rents, for example, or open up a business or whatever the case is. Don't leave it vacant, get rents on it, even if it's Airbnb or whatever, VRBO, that's fine, but hold it for a year to show it's long-term and get some rents on it to show that it's held for business and investment use. Some conservative CPAs may say, you know what, why don't you do that for 2 years and just remove all doubt? That being said, we've done plenty of exchanges for clients that have held for less than a year. They buy a property in March for, say, a rental for, say, $500,000. And then in October, they get an offer for $650,000 unsolicited. A developer's buying up the city block, and they're like, I have to take this, right? I'd be a fool not to. Like an offer they can't refuse. And they talk to their CPA, and they already have renters in there. Their intent was never to flip it. Their intent was to hold it long term. They got an offer they couldn't refuse. I mean, it would be crazy for them to say no. And the CPAs many times will say, yeah, you know what? Your intent was not to flip this property. Therefore, feel comfortable doing the exchange. We're going to recommend you do the exchange. And so there's not a specific time frame. It comes down to intent. But as the rule of thumb, many CPAs would say is hold for a year, get some rents on it. You're probably going to be okay. But ultimately, intent is the name of the game.
Gotcha.
Kyle, that's a great answer and really understandable.
Awesome.
You've been doing this. You've been doing this for more than just a little while.
Yep.
And I think you were really great about saying engage some professionals. Davina mentioned it as well.
Yep.
That can help you out, from the real estate broker to CPA. But you guys have a lot of knowledge. When we look at a company like yours and what you do, what role do you fulfill in the 1031 exchange process?
Yeah. So the easiest way that I would use to describe our job is we're like another layer of escrow. So if someone says, Kyle, what do you do for a living? And I say 1031s, they'll say, what do you do? I'll say basically like escrow. And I'll explain, when someone sells an investment property like a rental or a commercial property, when they sell that property and want to reinvest, they can't control funds or touch funds. So it has to go to a third-party account, which is where we come in. So when the clients close on their sale, instead of wiring funds to them, to their bank account, escrow will wire funds to us, to a bank account we hold on their behalf, and then we fund the purchase. So yeah, we're really like a third party, an additional layer of escrow, if you will.
Yeah, but a very integral part of the 1031 process.
Yep, clients always have to use a qualified intermediary, someone like us. They can never direct escrow where to send funds or actually hire their own professional. It's got to be a disinterested party. So it can't be, their financial advisor, their CPA, their attorney. It's got to be a completely disinterested party.
That that makes it really clear. Thank you.
Yeah. Kyle, you've been doing this like for a while now. Consumers out there, and even let's say some real estate professionals, if they wanted to get some more advice, knowledge, maybe even some education, what do you provide to the consumers and the real estate professionals?
Yeah, so I do a lot of classes and webinars, and I'm anxious to do those in person again, especially down in your guys' offices, which is always one of the funnest offices to do classes in. Everyone's engaged and learning and having a good time. It's awesome. But for like retail, the clients that you guys work with, your clients, I do a lot of almost like lunch and learns, but like happy hour type things where we can get a room at a local restaurant and spend an hour talking about 1031s and going over basics, or even like a Zoom webinar, or even we do something at your office where you guys bring in some snacks and we spend an hour doing Q&A and going over 1031 basics and talking about how to build your wealth through real estate, which is kind of a co-branded class with us and you guys. So if there's a group of investors, professionals that want more education, we're happy to do that in person or over Zoom.
I love it. I love it. So as you have been, literally this last, when you were talking about getting together, I'm thinking, okay, we gotta get something on the calendar soon. And I know Jurgen, and Steve, you're probably thinking the same thing too. Okay, we'll be talking to you, Kyle, in a moment.
Awesome.
But as you've been doing this and have been dealing with, clients probably around the country, here locally and over the state lines, is there a certain story or situation? I mean, it could be heartfelt, it could be funny, it could just be something that like just pops out in your head, like where you've helped someone with an exchange, or maybe you didn't help them with an exchange, but it was something you want to share about an experience that you've had since you've been doing this.
So yeah, I will share a specific story. And I think about this a lot, like who do we really help? And I would say that, essentially most exchanges, granted, there's always going to be exchanges for, like corporations and large groups, but more often than not, they're middle-class investors. Like maybe millennials, a young millennial couple that bought their first rental 4 or 5 years ago, and now they're exchanging into a duplex, and they're super excited to build their wealth and really grow their wealth. So 1031 for most exchanges is really a special thing. It's really a neat thing because you're actually seeing people just like you or I build their wealth through real estate. It's really, really cool. There's nothing like it. But there's a lot of cool stories within those exchanges. There's one investor that we have up north in Snohomish County, and she's done quite a few exchanges, her and her husband, and they actually will exchange and buy small multifamily, like say, 4 units or 8 units, and actually use their tax savings to renovate those and then start renting them out to like disabled adults at like a discounted rate. And that's kind of their way of giving back to the community is, when these disabled adults have to go to other homes or, they're like wards of the state, it can cost a lot of money. And so they'll do it at discounts and really that's their way of giving back, is helping, disabled adults find places to live that would normally be homeless or, pushed around from home to home by the state, and give them, a place to live long term. So there's so many cool stories like that where people use 1031 to help others. And in the process, they're growing their own wealth through real estate. But at the end of the day, they're doing, far cooler things than building wealth. They're helping the community.
That's fantastic because we often forget about that aspect, that what we do with real estate is definitely a service. And when we're doing something like this, it doesn't mean that we can't give back, and we can give back in different and sometimes even better ways than just a direct contribution. So I love that.
Yeah.
With when people are watching, we have some people that are watching live, and if you are watching live, pop in a question if you've got any, because know that the 1031 can be pretty broad, but a lot of times we get a lot of people that are watching after the fact, after we've got it posted up. So, Kyle, if they're hearing what you're saying about 1031s and they're looking at what they have, maybe they've got an investment, maybe it was inherited property, whatever it might be. What are some considerations that someone might look at if they would want to do a 1031 or not, or whether they might even qualify to do a 1031 exchange?
Sure. Yeah. First and foremost, it needs to be investment property held for business or investment use. So again, that's not personal use properties or flips, but like rentals, for example, land. Those would be two of the big ones, in commercial. The third, but yeah, if I mean that's probably the best place to start. Figure out what type of property it is. Yeah, general questions like, well, what can I exchange into? What exactly does this like-kind thing mean? You know, do I have to reinvest my proceeds? Yeah, just feel free to reach out to me. We have some great resources on our website. But yeah, if you just have a couple basic questions, just give me a call or shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to answer those.
Awesome. And before turning it over, I know Steve's got a question here. Before turning it there, you mentioned a fourplex or an eightplex or something like that, but you mentioned an exclusion for personal use. So does that mean on that investment you can't occupy one of the units, or is there any?
Very, very good question. So this is like master's level 1031 information. So mixed use property is a duplex. Let's say that I live in one half and rent out the other half. When I sell that property, I can take the primary residence exclusion, the 250 or 500,000, assuming I qualify for it, on the section I live in, and then the value of the section I rent out, I'm going to 1031 exchange that for maybe like a rental, for example, or like a small commercial space. But yeah, whatever the value is of that property you hold for business or investment use, that's exchangeable.
Awesome.
Yep.
Good. All right, let's go out and buy some multifamily.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, Kyle, I mean, you've dropped a whole lot of great information. We probably got people out there who may be tuning in this later who may have some more questions. What is the contact information if they wanted to reach out to you and get a hold of you that we could post up?
Yeah, so my email is a good one. Kyle.Williams at IPX, like investment property exchange 1031.com. If you just Google Kyle Williams 1031, I think I'll probably pop up. Or if you want to give me a call directly, my phone number is 425-582-3487. I'm more than happy to answer questions over the phone.
Okay. Awesome. We'll probably be reaching out to maybe set up some lunch and learns and some classes and
awesome
stuff with you, Kyle. So
awesome. Very cool.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah, well, golly. Just thank you so much for tuning in. And I know we were like, we don't see your face this morning. And if anyone, and I've said this before, I said, if anyone wants to see Kyle's face, they're going to have to come to a class. It's a wonderful face. So
I paid her to say that.
Hey, Davina, before letting Kyle go, you mentioned the fact that Kyle is born and bred in Washington. And we have people that watch that are within Washington, but we have people that also are living outside of the state. And when we talk about investment, we see a lot of investment into our state as well.
Yep.
What's one of the things, like as a Washingtonian, as a native, a local, what's one of the things that you love about our area? Or is there somewhere that you can't, when you think that you might not be here, that you think you could not live without here?
So, I mean, the landscape of Washington geographically is one of the most diverse places in the world. I mean, you could be in Eastern Washington in a desert and 4 hours later be in the wettest part of the country, you know, in the rainforest over on the coast. And it's like, and then you have Mount Rainier and like the Columbia River and like wine country. And it's like, it's crazy how diverse geographically this state is, and how beautiful it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is a beautiful state.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much. And your information is on the line, but it's also here, GAM, for people to see. So email, contact you directly. and also visit your website. And so thank you, Kyle, for joining us today. And we'll be talking with you soon.
Yes, thank you all.
All right.
All right.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Kyle.
Oh, I accidentally cut him off. That was my bad, Kyle. I know you're still back there. Sorry. That's fun, though. I learn a lot. Always learn so much every time we talk to an expert, and he definitely qualifies in as an expert on 1031 exchanges.
Yep, for sure. And we do still have and Kyle actually did give a hint. I think he kind of gave it away if anyone was listening closely on our trivia question. And so
I wasn't listening.
You were listening. Surprise, surprise. I was kidding.
Huh?
Just kidding. So let's bring our trivia question back and get the answers for that.
Yeah, it felt like you were going back to the Gomer Pyle thing again. Surprise, surprise.
And I said, golly.
So,
all right. So our trivia question again, Steve, was what?
It is, what year did the 1031 exchange begin? And I think he just dropped the answer, not like the answer, but gave the big hint. He said it was 100 years ago, or was when it started. That would put us in 1921, and I believe that's the answer.
Yeah.
Yes, it is 1921. The history of the 1031 exchange structure, as we know it now, began with the Revenue Act of 1921.
Oh, that's a long time.
This is the 100-year anniversary. Hard to comprehend 100 years, isn't it?
Yeah, not unless you're 100 years old.
And then you're not comprehending much. No,
oh man. All right. Well, gosh, it's we've wrapped up. We actually got through our I feel like there was so much that we took in such a short period of time. We still have a few more minutes that we usually are filling up our time all the way up till 9 o'clock, but we are actually done a little bit early today. But I feel so much more. Yeah.
Steve's got a couple of updates, but David, going to your point there, I thought he did a fantastic job of making it really concise but clear answers for what he did. And remembering back to how he does the courses, it's really more of the same. And everybody always walks away with a really good understanding and really a little bit inspired to look and find some of the people that could really benefit from this exchange.
Absolutely. And looking forward to having him do some classes, maybe some lunch and learns for our investor clients and community and agents. So looking forward to it.
We'll be getting them on the calendar here.
Yeah. But what do we have going on this week, Steve?
We got a few updates and reminders. So first one is we have Career Night coming up. That's going to be Tuesday, June 29th. If you're interested in finding out what it takes to get a real estate license and how much it costs, register at our Facebook webpage or even our regular webpage. Next up, we have our business meeting, which is Wednesday, 9 to 10 p.m. for all of our John L. Scott brokers.
AM.
What's that?
AM.
Oh, did I say PM? 9 a.m. Did I say PM?
You did.
Oh, my bad. 9 a.m. What if we did move it to 9 p.m.?
Yeah.
How would you think would show?
No, just log in when you tuck yourself into bed. Get warm and cozy. I mean, it's all the good news. You need to send yourself off into La La Land.
That'll be a different looking Zoom meeting. All right. And then we've got our Forums Friday coming up from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m.
AM.
Yes. And one last thing. On Friday, we have our market update with Jurgen and Davina. And they're always giving you the latest and greatest listings coming on the market, what's going on here within our marketplace, and going over the open houses that you can check out this weekend. So tune in Always some great stuff.
That's right.
I couldn't agree more.
It's fun. We have a good time. So, and we thank you all for watching and listening and sharing. And it's time for us to wrap up for today and get on with our week. So, we have these few words that we say before we go, 2 words that we say before we go, and it just means to get outside of that comfort zone, do something bold, move your life forward. And so we're going to count it up or down. And who wants to take us out today on the Be Bold? Steve does. He's the big one.
Oh, okay.
I got you guys. All right.
You raised that hand.
Thanks again for tuning in. We will be back again Monday with another talent talk for you. In the meantime, be bold. 1, 2, 3. Be bold.
Be bold.
Bye, you guys.
Take care, you guys. Have a great week.